Rain, cold, snow, all in the way in the 7-day forecast. So obviously a big change from what we're seeing right now here in Cincinnati, which plenty of sun, mild temperatures, and just a stiff breeze is all really going to impact your Wednesday. Things are comfy. Thursday, and then Friday rolls in, and that is a first alert weather day. So that's something that we're going to be tracking here on 19 at noon, the return of thunderstorms. Haven't talked about that in a while, and that's because we've been warm, right? We're seeing warm temps now. It's going to serve as some storm fuel for Friday, and yes, we just can't rule out some of those strong to severe thunderstorms. And what we're going to be watching as we step into your weekend, temperatures are going to be tumbling. That's why Sunday is the first alert weather day, because even though we're seeing very light impacts from rain, even snow in the evening, it's going to be unpleasant to be outside because we have gusty winds and temperatures are going to be falling as well. And then Monday, it's just going to be flat out cold, still breezy too, and then snow, the first one of the season. So that's why we've got 3 first alert weather days today, not one. We have plenty of sun out there on our Newport cam. Looks good. Good change of pace, especially this time last week. Remember all that rain we had moving through the area, how cold it was too. Whereas we're above normal even right now, 64 here in Cincinnati. The normal high temperature for today, 58 degrees. It's 58 degrees. So you can imagine many of us are going to be at least 10 degrees above that during the heat of the day. It's because we're seeing a lot of sun. Air is still pretty dry, but these southwesterlies are kicking into high gear. So again, pretty breezy stepping out the door. These are the wind gusts, I should say. Those northeast of Cincy, 30, 35 miles per hour. Again, the direction here is key because it's pulling in warmer temperatures. If it were from the northwest, we would be nice and cold right now, but thankfully the direction is favoring something a little bit more comfortable. Those out west of Cincinnati, those winds just gusting about 20 miles per hour, but we expect these gusts to still be a little noticeable towards the afternoon, the heat of the day. That's usually when they're at their peak. Clouds and radar, not a lot to report on. In fact, I'll expand upon this because, we're going to be noticing throughout the day today, there's going to be rain in northern Ohio coming off of the lakes, lake effect rain, if you will. We're already seeing the cloud cover that direction. And we're going to notice some passing clouds throughout your afternoon and into your evening, especially northeast of Cincinnati. And this is a dry cold front. And what you need to know about that is that it's going to be breezy today. It's going to be a little colder tomorrow. Cold front, but it's dry, not tracking any rain. That's the good news. So in fact, tomorrow morning is going to be a big difference from what we woke up to this morning, which many of us only dropped into the 40s this morning. And tomorrow, most of us, if not all of us, are going to be back in the 30s, which, a reminder, that's normal for this time of year. It's just kind of a shock to the system, especially after such a warm day. And then we step into your Thursday. I'm going to show you that forecast before we start talking about the mess that is Friday. Thursday itself is looking great. Temperatures seasonal, right around that seasonal point, so 57 here in Cincinnati. Again, a cold start. I just showed you those temps in the 30s, but plenty of sun takes us back near normal towards the afternoon, and no rain for Thursday. In fact, the winds aren't going to be too noticeable either. So Friday is our first alert weather day in a series of them. They're not consecutive because Saturday is not a first alert weather day, but you guys get the point. It's going to get active. So that's the next big thing, going to be Friday's first alert weather day. And this first alert weather day is because of the storm risk. Heavy rain and gusty winds that we're going to see moving through the tri-state. We'll track it here on your timeline here in a second. I do want to give you a rough idea of what Friday is going to look like as far as the timeline goes before we actually take a look at it, because the morning it's mostly dry. We're going to see some light showers try to come back into the tri-state until towards the late morning, I think, but by the afternoon, that's really when the bulk of this rain is going to be moving through, especially southeast of Cincinnati, where we have that risk for strong to severe storms, and those gusty winds may prompt a few severe thunderstorm warnings. It's an isolated threat, but it's still there. We'll hang on to the rain and the thunder, the gusty winds into your evening, especially east of Cincinnati, because these are going to be moving from west to east. So let's talk about the storm risk for Friday. Again, it's a marginal risk, so it's still on the lower side of the spectrum, but it's still a risk. And for this time of year, Ohio averages maybe 1 to 3 tornadoes, the whole state does, in the month of November. So it's not out of the question to see severe weather here. I don't think we're going to see tornadoes with this. It's possible, it always is, but this is mainly because of the gusty winds that are possibly coming on in, but that's going to be mainly southeast of Cincinnati where we do see that dark green color. Again, we're mainly seeing heavy rain. Winds are going to be strong. They might just be strong enough, I should say, to prompt a few warnings. So kind of unpacking that risk a little bit more. The tornado risk is very low. That's the good news here. Same with the hail risk, guys. You can't rule it out, especially with any of those taller thunderstorms that try to form, but mainly a wind threat. And you're going to see why, because this line of thunderstorms is going to be pretty organized. And when we see that organization, we usually get a good line of strong winds that come with it too. Flooding risk, it's there. And that's because rainfall totals, they're going to be upwards of an inch southeast of Cincinnati. So bringing you right to Friday, this is again a first alert weather day because the afternoon and evening going to be quite messy, but the morning looking good. I'm not worried about the commute for you guys. Maybe the ride home though, especially southeast of Cincinnati where we've got that risk for something strong, maybe severe. So here's 4 o'clock, showers lifting into northern Kentucky. Here's 5 o'clock. Again, notice the line developing here. When I see a line like this, it usually means that we're going to get some strong winds just right with that initial line. It's going to rain a lot and then it's going to stop. So hopefully that remains true. By about 8 o'clock, the heaviest rain and that main line of gusty winds gonna be past the tri-state at this point. We're still tracking heavy rain throughout your evening east of Cincy, out towards Brown, Adams, Highland counties too. Maybe some stray showers still here in Cincy, but that's really it. By 10 o'clock, things start to wrap up, the severe risk drops, and we're in smooth sailing through most of your Saturday, which, again, Saturday is not a first alert weather day. We do have rain in the forecast. It's just really late in the evening. You'll see here on your weather timeline, I'm actually going to show you what Saturday looks like because, I mean, we're talking an afternoon. Look, this is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Wind chills in the low 60s. It's going to be great outside for most of the day, just a tiny bit of a breeze here and there because it's not until later on in the evening that we see the showers pulling on through once again. Maybe a few rumbles of thunder, but because of the arrival time being well after the sun sets, temperatures are going to be in the 50s at this point. I'm not worried about anything strong to severe. Not really worried about thunderstorms, to be quite honest, too. Just mainly heavy at times rain and some gusty winds. Now, why is Sunday a first alert weather day? Especially because we get into the mid-morning and it's already pretty or relatively dry outside. Well, it's because we're seeing dropping temperatures throughout the day. The warmest temperatures of the day look like they're going to be in the overnight hours. Plus, it's going to be breezy. Unpacking what you're seeing here, those numbers, that's not the temperature, that's the wind chill. So temperatures on Sunday, they're going to read in the 40s, but the winds, they're going to make it feel closer to 30 degrees or 35 degrees at times, depends on where you are, of course. We're going to hold on to some light rain chances, especially north of Cincinnati. But as the sun gets lower on the horizon around 5 o'clock and then around like 6 to 9 o'clock, that's when temperatures really start to fall. We're back in the middle 30s. Those winds are still gusting. You see here, the wind chills rather are going to be in the 20s for Sunday evening. Not a great evening to be outside by all means. And as a result, those falling temperatures are going to open up the door to a wintry mix and maybe a little bit of snow on Sunday evening. We've got greater chances on Monday morning to see widespread flurries all around the tri-state because those cold temperatures, they're sticking around. And that's why Monday's the first alert weather day, because of how cold it's going to be, but also it's the first snow of the season. We got to talk about it, right? And winds, going to make it feel like the teens in the morning. This is scarf weather. This is hat weather. This is gloves weather. And you're going to want to have the coat by all means because we have not seen cold like this since last winter. Maybe last April, if we're being specific. I think we had a good spell of like 20-degree temperatures in April here in Cincinnati, but at least it's been months, right, since we've seen this. It's definitely the coldest air of the season so far, and so that makes for 3 first alert weather days. Let's kind of put a bow on those real quick to give you an idea, like just a reminder, I should say, of why each day is a first alert weather day. So here's what you need to know, kind of just summarizing it. Friday, thunderstorms. It's also going to be quite rainy. This is mainly the afternoon into the evening. Unfortunately, we have seen the timing of this change so that the Friday night football games look like they're going to see a good amount of rain, especially east of Cincinnati. I know we're starting to get into regional play. I think we are starting to get into regional play. So heading east, not a good idea, not a good idea. But of course, just make sure you have the umbrellas and keep an eye on the chance for something strong to severe. I mean, these winds, they're going to be gusting up to and around severe limits with any of these stronger thunderstorms. So that's why it's a first alert weather day. Sunday, that's our next first alert weather day here. And that's because temperatures are going to be dropping throughout the day. The warmest temps I'm seeing are at midnight in the 50s. Rain's going to roll through. I'm not too worried about anything actually falling from the sky throughout the day on Sunday. It looks pretty dry after that morning rain. I mean, we're going to see some light drizzle, and then anything that is left over, any rain that is left over, especially north of Cincinnati, as we see these cold temperatures push through the tri-state, we could see some evening snow as soon as Sunday. That's mainly north of Cincinnati. And then Monday, of course, we're holding on to those cold temperatures. Everyone's holding on to the cold temperatures. And as a result, morning flurries. Everyone could see that. All right, we'll see if we have any questions rolling on through this afternoon. JD's tuning in. How are you doing today? What's the weather for Canton tomorrow morning? Have a good day today. You too, JD. Thanks for tuning in. And the weather for Canton tomorrow morning, I'm assuming is probably a little bit cooler than us here in Cincinnati. So temps in the mid to low 30s and probably a little bit of clear skies too, just like here in Cincinnati. But thanks for tuning on in as always. And now that we're done talking about these 3 first alert weather days, we can kind of unpack what the rest of that 7 day is going to look like as well, which, I mean, most of what we've been talking about and what you're going to hear us talk about is going to involve these 3 first alert weather days. So just keep that in mind. And of course, we're going to talk about it because it's got the biggest impact, of course. All right, so here's that 7 day forecast. Again, today is wonderful. Just a little breezy stepping out the door this afternoon with winds gusting up to about 35, maybe 40 miles per hour, especially north of Cincinnati, where we've got that cold front passing on through. And because we have that cold front passing on through, tomorrow is going to be colder both in the morning and in the afternoon. 30s in the morning, 50s in the afternoon. That's normal. I'd say Thursday is probably the most normal day out of the 7 day forecast because as soon as Friday hits, storms, breezes. I shouldn't say as soon as Friday hits. Again, mainly the afternoon. The morning looks good. 40s in the morning. Not worried about the commute. Friday afternoon, that's when the showers and storms are going to be pulling on through. So just wanted to clarify that. And then Saturday, most of Saturday is looking dry too. Heavy rain does move through late Saturday evening, borderline overnight into Sunday. So if you're staying out real late on Saturday evening, then you might want to just keep in mind that rain is on the way. But it keeps temperatures from getting too cold that night. Middle 40s is as low as we go. And notice that the morning low on Sunday is colder than the daytime high on Sunday, 46 to 43 degrees. That's not an accident, that's on purpose, and that's because temperatures are going to be falling throughout the day. That's why it's a first alert weather day. It's also going to be quite breezy too. And then later in the afternoon and evening, light rain in north of Cincinnati may transition into a wintry mix with temps dropping into the 20s overnight into Monday, another first alert weather day. This one about how cold it's going to be and therefore how widespread these flurries are going to be, especially in the morning, coming off of the 20s. Those winds are still going to be gusting up to about 30, 35 miles per hour. And so the 20s, it's going to feel like the teens. Again, winter works at the ready. What I mean by that, scarves, gloves, hats, socks. Please wear socks, gosh. And if you're going to be outside for a long period of time, make sure you're giving yourself some breaks from the cold. This is the kind of weather, I should clarify, in which we want to start considering things like hypothermia for not only you, but your pets and the elderly and kids and things of that nature. That's why Monday's a first alert weather day. We're getting you ready for what could be the coldest air of the season so far. And then, yeah, flurries, we're going to see it. And some of it might stick to like metal surfaces. You might see it on the rooftops too. Anything that's able to cool down pretty quickly, because while we are noticing really cold temperatures in the morning, typically when we want to see a sticking snow, at least to the grass, we want to have cold temperatures for a long time that will sustain snow sticking to it. Because otherwise most of the snow is going to melt upon contact. And because we're seeing Monday morning, like most of the morning flurries are in that forecast, at least till the late morning. Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible that we see our first sticking snow, especially north of Cincinnati, but it really just depends on those temperatures and how cold they get and how soon they get cold, because yeah, you guys get the point. We need colder temperatures for a long time to really get the ground cold enough to allow snow to stick. So it's possible, but again, snowfall is not going to amount to a whole lot, nothing that's really going to impact you too much. We'll be watching though, of course. I mean, something that we're not going to play around with for this time of year is the hidden hazard of wet leaves. So just keep in mind that that can kind of act like ice. And then of course, with the chance of rain on Sunday and cold temperatures, freezing temperatures overnight into Monday, yeah, we cannot rule out some slick surfaces Monday morning. Slick surfaces meaning ice on sidewalks, ice on trails, ice on the roads. It depends on if we see that rain Sunday and how long it really sticks around too. So it's not out of the question that we see our first sticking snow, our first little chance of getting some ice out there. So that's why both days are now first alert weather days, to kind of cover the bases here and really get you ready for it. But fall, ups and downs, right? This time next week, we're going to be back in the 50s. So it's like a blast of winter, if you will. 20s, snow, maybe a little bit of ice trying to form after a frozen morning. But then we see plenty of sun in the extended forecast, and we're back in the middle 50s, which is very normal for this time of year. So as soon as we start talking about the snow, the people, I understand it's kind of a sensitive subject, but at least it's pretty short-lived for those of us who are very upset it's in the 7-day forecast, because again, we return to something kind of like today by this time next week. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions rolling on in this afternoon, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off of here. I'll have the latest timing on Fridays, showers, thunderstorms, severe threat as well, and the chance of snow coming up on Fox 19 at 3 o'clock with Jordan Valines. But for now, signing off here in Queensgate, I'm meteorologist Erin Ashley. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.